Hello and welcome or welcome back to Tink or Swim. My name is Jennifer. I'm a knitter and crocheter from Southern California, where I live with my husband Alex and our two cats, Pippin and Sylvanas. I do want to start by saying a huge thank you to Rachel, Chapel Hill Maker, for giving me a shout out in her recent episode. And I really appreciate those of you who have decided to stop by or are new subscribers from hearing about me from Rachel. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy. Doing well so far. I hope you enjoy spending some time with me. This is where I talk about my recently finished objects, what I'm currently working on, and other things that I've been up to. Normally, I don't try to talk about acquisitions unless I have very specific plans for them or intend to swatch or cast on soon, which I will have some acquisition talk today. Um, Other than that, before I jump in with what I'm wearing, which is also my one and only finished object for this episode, um, just want to catch up with what's been going on the past couple weeks. Normally, I try to film every 2 weeks, but it's just been, insert lots of screaming here. um, it's it's been a time. Um, Outside of the time that it's been, on the smaller scale of my own personal life, it's just been very busy. My best friend's baby turned 1. We had a big birthday celebration for him. Had a lot of plans with family over the past few weeks. I think the last time I recorded was somewhere in early January. So, um, yeah, there was just a lot of moving parts going on. I can't even remember now because I'm pretty sure a week ago I had all sorts of things, and now it's just been a whole blur. But more recently, we've been basically redecorating, um, redoing some of the interior of our apartment, getting furniture that we probably should have had for some time. For example, a dining table, which is what I'm currently sitting at. I haven't had a dining table in 7 years, and we're computer nerds. We live, eat, and not sleep, but spend a lot of time at our desks. So, but for the past couple of years, we kept mentioning we should get a dining table so we don't eat at our computers, and we can feign some sort of normalcy in that sense. And we just kept putting it off. But hey, I'm at a dining table now. With respect to all the redecorating, our crafty corner, which is where I recorded the last few episodes, I'm in this constant shuffle of trying to find my little Goldilocks space of recording. Where's good in terms of lighting, my comfort level. If I'm not too close to the window and therefore burning up and can't wear any of my knits because the windows are like a magnifying glass for the sun. Um, and then also where I don't echo a ton, because I'm constantly paranoid that I'm being so loud and disruptive when I just rant for like an hour. So we're trying this out. So welcome to my new dining table, everybody. You've never seen it before because it didn't exist until earlier this week. Neither did this sideboard, which not miraculously matches very well with our bookcase here. I have the doors open because there's quite a bit of glare that comes onto the glass doors. Yeah, so yay, I'm really digging it. This corner has been void of functional furniture for a hot minute. So it's been nice to have a place to sit and eat that isn't right in front of a computer screen. So, with all that, what else have I been up to? Yeah, just working a lot on this sweater that I'm currently wearing. Again, I'll talk about it in finished objects. Some final housekeeping things because I'm so scattered. And I said, you know what, I'm going to just sit down and wing it. And here I am winging it. Everything that I talk about, I will link in the description. I will I will timestamp everything. So you are free to skip around if you haven't already. If I forget anything or if you have any questions about anything at all, please feel free to leave a comment, ask a question, do it. I'm more than happy to answer within my abilities. To save us all from continued rambling, I will jump right into what I'm wearing, which is also my one and only finished object. Technically, yes, my one and only official finished object. This is, and I'll stand up so we can see it. Disclaimer, I am wearing shorts because it is going to be 84 degrees today, Fahrenheit. Southern California being Southern California. My well wishes and safe wishes for those dealing with cold weather issues, ice storms, and all that stuff. We are in a heat wave apparently over here. So I'm in shorts. I'm going to go on a walk later today, and for efficiency's sake, this is not normally what I would pair it with, but yeah, this is the Ghali Sweater, my finished object that took me, I want to say, just over 2 months to make. So this is a Ghali sweater designed by Janet of Zanet Knits, Zanette. This is an all over colorwork charted piece. So the chart is 130 something rows. It goes from the top all the way down. There are options as well to do a partial colorwork repeat for a different effect that you so choose. But the original intent of it is to appear like a veil lifting off of what's considered the main color. So the main color is down at the bottom here, where the solid blocks are, and the contrast color is what you start with. I think I made a size 3. This is a raglan, maybe a modified raglan construction because of the way that these increases are done. They are meant to look decorative. So you can't really see because my contrast color is dark. So there's a special technique that she uses for the increases, which create this like decorative, more open, I would say, raglan increase. What else? You start off with the body. The pattern is very, very descriptive, in a good way, but also in an overwhelming way if you are not prepared to deal with it, because it is, I would say it's not beginner friendly. I would consider myself maybe an intermediate beginner, but I do enjoy color work a lot. So my love for color work alone, stranded color work at least, that alone powered me through all of the anxiety around this. When I saw the pattern release, I fell in love with it, and I didn't want to wait until it became something that was just going to be stuck in the back of my mind, and I just cast it on. So it is very prescriptive. She has a video overview of the sweater, and I think she does that for most of her patterns as well. It's done in multiple sections. It's broken down very nicely. You cast on the top of the sweater. You do neckline shaping so that the back raises higher. The collar is done last. You do the color chart, or the color work chart. You do some raglan increases, and then it's staggered from there. You increase the same rate, the sleeves, the body, and then you increase the body and the sleeves a little bit slower, and then you eventually only increase the body. So I know a lot of like round yokes and stuff, they increase at the same rate, and then at some point you just split for sleeves. This is, I don't know if there's a specific name for it, but it's like more staggered than that. Then you finish off the body. The only modifications, I guess I made a couple of modifications, mainly for length. The body originally has you go to like maybe 15 inches under the arm. I'm short, I'm 5'3". So I'm acutely aware of the height or the length. I know nothing about fashion, but I do know that I didn't want to look like I was swimming in a tunic. So I shortened the body a little bit. So it sits basically right up at the top of my hip. And I'm very happy with that. I also shortened the sleeves, which were supposed to, on her, she had her sleeves, I could see them like almost halfway down her hand, but I prefer shorter sleeves. This is actually the longest sleeve I've ever done. And so I guess maybe we can call it bracelet length, or it's just a me saying it was enough length. So that so you finish the body, you finish the sleeves, and then you pick up for the collar. The collar is supposed to be done as a folded collar, which I've never done before. You're supposed to bind off with a 3-needle bind off on that. I forewent the folded collar. I just did a picked up collar, and then I bound off using what's called an Italian or sewn bind off for 2x2 rib. So that's a new technique that I learned. It was very painstaking, but very satisfying. Um, the collar was really floppy though when I finished. I'm gonna sit back down, but yeah. So with the collar, I was really nervous about it because I knew that I didn't want a folded collar. It just wasn't my preferred look. I also bound off differently than prescribed. So I had a lot of questions. Again, I'm like beginner intermediate. So while I'm comfortable making some modifications, there are some times where I'm like, I don't know enough to do this. I'll just go ahead and give it a shot. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And when I finished and bound off everything, all the ends were sewn in and it was blocking. I couldn't really enjoy the fact that it was done because I was so nervous about the collar. It was floppy as all hell. Like it looked like a ruffle. So if I haven't already, then I will insert some sort of imagery to illustrate what it looked like pre-block. But I am so glad that it blocked out to my liking. So the collar is still a little bit loose. There is some frumpiness happening here because of the tension differences when I started the color work. I swatched 3 times, and I know that my gauge during color work is the same as stockinette. At least I managed to make it so with the same needle size. It's just that when it's like the official piece, I think my nerves kind of get the best of me. So the very beginning of this, it's not too tight, which I'm really happy about because that's always the thing of like, I know I'm going to chill out later down the road, but I really need the beginning to be good too. So there is minor puckering, but it does not bother me. I did all that, didn't even mention the yarn. The yarn is cone yarn, so it was my first purchase from Good Yarn, which is a store in Portland. They ship nationwide. The yarn is a combination of things. So the what's called the main color, which is the lighter color, is this cone. I have 2 cones of this. So 2 cones of this held with a shiny Lurex blend. Not blend, this is 100% Lurex. So this is really shiny. This is called Cash Vip, CASHVIP. It is 95% merino wool, 5% cashmere. So I held 2 strands of this with 1 strand of the Lurex, which is, the name is Frizzanti. The colors, one of them is called Ashen Fleece, and the other one I think is called Ash Orchid. So I'm going to assume this is Ashen Fleece. This one is probably Ash Orchid. There's like kind of a lavendery undertone to it. I don't know if it shows up on camera, but so there's that. The contrast color, which is the darker color, and that was the color. Oh, I do want to mention that the pattern has so thoughtfully written. Oh my goodness, such clear instructions, and 2 different charts, one for a darker contrast color, one for a lighter contrast color, which is major. If you've done a color work chart that doesn't differentiate between different potential contrast colors, I think we usually associate like a non-colored box with the main color, and then a colored or like a dark gray or like a black box as the contrast color. However, her original sample, the contrast color is darker. Sorry, flip that. Her original contrast color is a lighter color, and the main color is a darker color. I messed this up when I ordered the yarn, and I'm messing it up again. It flips the idea of main color and contrast color on its head, because you are holding the main color to be more color dominant. So you're holding it closer to the work as you're carrying the strands across. Whereas traditionally, for those who play with color dominance, the contrast color tends to be the dominant color. So you're flipping that. Anyways, all that to say, the contrast, yeah, the color work chart has two different versions. So it'll swap the main color so that you can follow along with the visual association that you have of the dark versus light boxes. The contrast color that I use is this combination of Cashvip Pine Shadow held with Frizzanti in Jungle Gleam. All in all, 6 strands, split in between 3 strands for each color. And I left them all on the cone. I had a whole system in a box, working off of them for the entire body. And then when I was done with the body and I moved on to the sleeves, I wound them up into cakes instead because I figured I was going to be turning the work a lot more and didn't want to deal with the madness anymore. So caking them up actually ended up working out, and I'm very relieved for that. For the collar itself, I took out the frizzanti because I am sensitive to fibers, and I was nervous about the lurex, even though it is incredibly thin. I didn't want to take any chances with something like this up close to my neck. The original pattern calls for a sport weight yarn that is, I think it's Art Fill glitter. So it is a shiny piece, and I don't know if it comes across very well while I'm recording here, but it does show in person. But it's subtle enough where it's not like I'm not a disco ball, which I really appreciate. This is, I understand the concept of blocking and watching yarn transform from before and after blocking, but this is probably the biggest example of that. And that is because working off of cone yarn, there are still spinning oils on it. So it's more compact and therefore almost feels a little bit more ropey. So working with it wasn't the most pleasant experience I've ever had, especially when you add in the lurex. So there are times when if my skin was like really dry, it started catching. But after it blocked, the yarn really bloomed. And I think I was leading into that because with the collar, my nerves about the collar, I think, were strictly because, and again, if I haven't inserted any video or images, hopefully I have. But I took some videos of before blocking, and you could see if I ran my finger underneath the collar and underneath the ribbing on the hem and cuff, you could see through it. There's some gappiness because of the compactness of the yarn. After a block, though, everything puffs up beautifully, softens. This is very comfortable right now. It is 75 degrees Fahrenheit inside right now. The sun is threatening to shine down directly on me shortly, but I am still comfortable, probably because I'm not moving that much. Wow. I hope I covered everything. Again, if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me. Check out my Ravelry project for it. I'm so glad this is done. This was 2 months. Next up is new cast-ons. Would you call it a cast-on if it's a crochet project? New project. New-ish. So in the past, I shared a jelly roll crochet blanket that I started. The designer is Kay Jones from the Bakery Bears. Her jelly roll blanket originally is a knitting pattern. It calls for fingering weight, and I think you have options to hold it double or single. So you can technically also use DK weight. I saw it first from Kevin from Needles at the Ready, Kevin and Ray, on their podcast. And I had wanted to make the jelly roll blanket, but when Kay announced that she was going to do a crochet version, I held off because I was in the market for basically a yarn eating project that I'm very picky, but I couldn't really tell you exactly what I'm looking for. I can just tell you when something's not working out. So I tried several scrap projects, blankets, and things like that. tried a lot of them, and none of them were really scratching that itch. So when the crochet jelly roll blanket came out, I started a cotton version, but I quickly decided it hasn't been unraveled. However, I wouldn't call it a blanket because it's 100% cotton, and so 100% cotton tends to create a certain type of fabric that I feel like wouldn't necessarily be comfortable. It's like really heavy, kind of stiff, especially because it's fingering held double and or DK, and the pattern calls for a linen stitch, which is very stiff. Um, so I will probably still finish that, but I might use it instead as like a table runner or something, or like something draped over the sideboard here. Having said all that, I started another version of the crochet jelly roll blanket. This time I'm using all superwash wool leftovers, but not just leftovers. Here's what I've got so far. So what you do is you basically crochet, obviously. I'm using a 4 millimeter crochet hook, and you crochet these strips, and then it's a join as you go method. So you would start the next strip when you reach a certain length that you prefer or height that you want. You'll start the next piece, start attaching it to the previous strip as you go. And then in the end, you'll have, and it's called a jelly roll because, from what I understand, that's a quilting term and it's a specific type of fabric that you get in quilting. I'm not a quilter, so couldn't tell you much more than that. The yarn that I'm currently working on it with, let me move my coffee so I don't spill it. My first hand dyed yarn was gifted to me by my lovely husband, who is my number one enabler. And there was a set called the Fantasy Set by Bad Shape Yarn. She has it in two bases. There's a fingering weight and a DK weight. They're all 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So the Fantasy Set is a set of 5 colors. And these are all poorly wound because this is the first time that I ever caked up yarn by myself. I also don't, off the top of my head, know all the names of the colors, but again, it's in my Ravelry project. So there's a green shade here. They're all highly variegated as well. This beautiful green, almost teal. There is some color correction happening here. So there is more yellow in it than it appears on my screen. There's a red. There is a blue, which you've seen on my beginning of the jelly roll. I know for sure this one's called Siren. No, not the blue one is called Siren. This one's called Incantations. Incantations was my favorite. I actually ended up ordering a second skein of it, and I made myself some gloves years ago. And then there's this, which is Talisman. So for sure, I know Talisman, Incantations, Siren, something dragon related, I think. And then I don't want to say forest, but yeah, again, in my notes. So I have these 5 colors, and it was a terrible case of this yarn is too precious for me to use. I tried to make a shawl with them, and then I started doubting myself. And then I ended up ripping it all out because I had abandoned it for over a year, and it was just waiting for a new home. I want them all to be in the same project, and because each of them have flecks of the other color. So all the variegated and the speckles and the changes in tone, they all look fantastic next to each other. Even the blue and the red, which normally I don't like blue and red next to each other. That's just my personal preference. But the green has flecks of gold and stuff that could go well with anything else. And yeah, so that's my stubbornness. I needed them all to be in the same project. Well, what am I going to do with 500 grams of such wildly different colors, highly variegated yarn without making it look insane? This is my latest attempt, and I actually really like how this is going. I love how the colors are pooling. I can make the strips as long as I want. So what I started off with was pulling these other, they've been through a lot. So there are some leftover balls of yarn that are no longer attached to the main skein. I also pulled out a lot of my leftover or unused DK weight scraps and fingering weight scraps because I can hold them double. And I even have these one-off random yarn balls that I purchased on a whim that would match beautifully. But these are only 50 grams. I don't know what I was thinking. I was new to the game. So, and I also, had shiny object syndrome. So there's a lot going on. And so I'm really excited about this project because I even have a yellow one that matches Talisman. So these are all Jody Long Chow that I picked up out of like a sale bin at a local yarn store when I was off to have dinner with some friends and I was waiting for the dinner to start. Walked into a yarn store, grabbed a bunch of yarn, no idea what to do with it. And then, they sat in the guilty corner for a couple years. So, all that to say, I think this is going to be a pretty big blanket. um, but I'm really excited. I've been missing or wanting a crochet project um, for a little while now. I know I have one hibernating, but I just haven't brought myself to start working on it again. Um, but this one is a little bit easier to deal with, pick up and put down. Maybe I'll speak differently about it when it starts to grow, but yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. So that is the crochet jelly roll blanket. The next new-ish project, I wouldn't call it a cast on. I wouldn't call it much. I randomly decided to start learning how to spin with a drop spindle. Beware, they are terrifying to look at, and I don't have an explanation for you. This is a journey for me. This is the very first thing that I made. This is the cake version of it. I watched the tutorial, and this is not speaking on the goodness of the tutorial. Let me say the tutorial is awesome. It's by Amy Scher. It helped a lot just to get me even started. And so and she has a lot of good advice. It's just like I'm learning the muscle memory. So this is the very first thing that I made. Underneath it that I'm showing right now is the second attempt. I had to take these off the spindle at around 25 grams roughly. So I think overall I'm going to end up with 4 things of yarn. So the second one, I have a lot less of these really chunky bits, but it's still way too twisted. I put way too much twist in this, and it's very uneven, of course. I think it's going to take me a long time to get this muscle memory going. This is what's currently on my spindle, or our spindle. I don't like the color orange that much. So I wanted to try just spinning the gray silvery portions of it. And I kind of like it. Again, still messy, still way too high of twist. I think I need to just really slow down, and I kind of get impatient sometimes, so I have to be prepared, I think, to be very chill when spinning. I do find it soothing. I find it very addictive. This is the remainder of the braid that I have, so you can see it's a combination of gray, off-white, kind of creamy white, and this orange color. I had the tag somewhere, but it is out of my current reach. But I will put the information in the description. I think it's Greenworks fibers. We got it at the SoCal Fiber Fair in 2025. And it is a blend of, I want to say, superwash merino, bamboo, and silk. Maybe it's merino. Again, we'll put the information in the description. Yeah, so it's really nice, and there is a nice sheen to parts of it, which I assume is coming from either the bamboo or the silk. I don't know nearly enough about fiber to tell you left from right. So that is a thing that I tried out, and that I'm still trying out. And I'm also holding myself back from that shiny object feeling of like I just picked up a new thing and now I want to go all in, because I kind of want an e-spinner, and I probably shouldn't right now, especially in the middle of redecorating and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. And then my last work in progress or my last work in progress with any updates is this Musselburgh. So this Musselburgh is using leftover yarn from a blanket make along crochet along that I did some years ago. The base is Expression Fiber Arts Mirage Sport. I think it's a blend of superwash merino, baby camel, cashmere, and silk at minimum. It's very soft. The more bronzy gold colors are part of a set. I don't know their individual colors. And this red color is called maple. So I'm doing a contrast. I'm actually doing a 2-color hat. And my intention is that when it folds, it's going to have either none of the red or all of the red. The beginning of this hat was done in 1 color from the Nesting Hues set. And this stripe right here, I don't know if it comes off in the camera, but it is more of a gold color. It's a different color. And that's because I don't have any more of that first color. And I don't know if it's going to bother me that it's just a shade off, but we're giving it a shot. So we'll see how that goes. So that's it for projects and finished and active crafting situations. I'm going to move on to the very first time talking about acquisitions. This yarn is Hope Made Yarn Co. I watch her podcast with Keisha of Simply Vintage Designs, and I've been itching to get some of Hope's yarn for some time. She had an anniversary sale earlier this month, and I took advantage. This is her Joy DK base, which is superwash, extra fine superwash merino, 10% yak, and 10% silk. It is 4-ply DK, 246 yards per 100 grams, and the colorway is Beach Plum. So I have 7 skeins of this. I started off with a sweater quantity, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to make a cardigan. My original intention was to make a sea glass cardigan, and do all these DK scraps with this yarn as the main color. My husband, who's my enabler, suggested that this is my favorite color. You can see it's like the same color as my hair. And when I went to the SoCal Fiber Fair in 2025, I was looking for the perfect purple. I like what you call it, like beach plum, but also, I don't know, like a warmer, is this a warmer purple perhaps? Almost like an orchid shade. I hope the color is coming off decently. It is actually pretty hard to photograph, and I can even see that I'm holding up now, and the 2 skeins are being shown in different shades. So, but it has all of that, and it has this beautiful, what I noticed is yak has this certain tone to it, or this certain effect, or the way that it takes dye, and it almost adds like a moodier tint. And I am 1000% here for moody jewel tone type things. All that to say, my husband was like, "This is your favorite color. You keep looking at it, and I don't think you want to make a sea glass cardigan where you have to alternate a bunch of different other colors. I think you should just do a solid piece in it." So, say less. I ordered another skein, and therefore I have a cardigan quantity now. And that's okay with me because I actually have a bundle on Ravelry that is basically my free pass when I do intend to acquire yarn. Things that I can reference in terms of quantity needed, and things that I very much intend to make sometime in the near future. And I constantly keep that updated to make sure it's fresh with what suits my mood presently. So one of the things that I had in my will make need yarn bundle is the Calm Down cardigan designed by Lily Kate France. So I spent a lot of time looking for cardigan patterns. I looked at so many cardigans. Like I would get I would make myself a little bit lightheaded or overwhelmed even. Um, and that may be partially because Ravelry, I think, is not, I think it can cause motion sickness for some people, and I may be some people. Um, so I was looking for one that kind of fit my unspoken preference for a fit. I don't like super duper oversized. I don't like super duper heavy. I also don't like extremely tight to the body, especially if it is a layering piece. So, studying the cardigans that I do have and the fits that I like, I narrowed it down to just a handful. And then ultimately, I'm feeling pretty confident that this is going to become the calm down cardigan. And it also fits my interest in trying out a new construction style. Um, in the her saddle shoulder, I don't know if it's a saddle shoulder. She has a special shoulder construction that's highlighted in the pattern pictures. And I'm really interested in that very subtle detail. The cardigan does have buttons, um, and I haven't decided if I'm going to leave the buttons off. I have buttons I could use. That's a decision for a future me, but I'm really excited. Yeah. So that is what all the knitting and crochet related stuff that I had today. Oh, the AC has kicked on. So apologies for any loud noises that you hear currently, because I hope you are taking care of yourself, whatever that means to you. And I hope you are taking care of each other, and practicing kindness and protecting your peace, and or doing what you can with what you have and when you can. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today, and I will see you next time.